Hey, I'm not surprised, motherfuckers.
What's up, guys? Welcome to Courtside Soundoff podcast today. I'm Josh. He's Angel Ortega. The big news, obviously, UFC 249 is fucking happening. Probably, maybe not. From where we're recording right now, we are 10 days out. A lot of stuff got confirmed. A lot of stuff got canceled. But what we do know is that UFC 249 is currently scheduled to happen. We'll get into that. Some 30 for 30 talk. Future UFC events taking place at a fucking island, WrestleMania, and a little bit of NBA news. But first off, we're going to start with the big news. As I just mentioned, UFC 249, supposedly happening at the Tachi Palace in California on an Indian reservation. The main event, Justin Gaethje stepping in for Khabib Nurmagomedov. Obviously, Khabib is stuck over in Russia due to travel sanctions. And, obviously not even a lot more stuff. Like, he's not in probably the best training conditions, can't train at all. And Justin Gaethje taking on Tony Ferguson, the former interim champ, who's won 11 fights in a row, I think. I don't know. Gaethje, obviously, 3 KOs in a row. Angel, by the way, we're gonna get into this entire card because there's so many awesome fights on here that we have to talk about most of these, if not all of these. Angel, you hear the announcement, you hear the news. What was your first reaction to finding out Justin Gaethje stepping in, the card is happening, the fight is happening for an interim belt?
It's crazy. It's entertainment, which is all we care for at this point in time. As far as, who it is, I don't even care anymore. With everything going on, I didn't even care. I was just like, at least something's happening. So that's all I cared about at that moment. We have some sort of MMA going on. So that's all I cared about.
Yeah, do you like the fight for Gaethje and Ferguson? Because obviously there was talk of, Conor, he might step in, or this guy might step in. Like, do you think it was a fight to make?
I feel like they almost should have just made Conor versus Gaethje at that point. And then that way they would have had their next challenger ready for Khabib or Tony if that ever happens. So yeah. I think I would have preferred that fight more. And it probably, viewership-wise, probably would have been better. Not saying this won't get eyes because it's going to be the only sports thing, but compared to the amount of eyes it could have got if Conor was on it, it would have been a very significant difference in my opinion. And I think that would have been like the move for the UFC in my opinion at that point. Because Conor Gaethje made sense, and Gaethje wanted that fight. I'm not sure if Conor wanted it, but I don't think Conor would back down from a fight at this point. So, and the money probably would have been there for Conor, so it would have made a lot of sense, in my opinion, to do the Conor Gaethje fight instead of the Tony Gaethje match, in my opinion.
Yeah, it made a lot of sense financially for Conor. I don't think Conor wanted to do it, though. His coach said, there's no way he was going to fight, given all the stuff that's going on right now. And I can't blame him, but Justin Gaethje stepping up, absolute badass move, a real bad motherfucker, all the BMF talk a couple months ago. Justin Gaethje is a for real. He's exactly. But Justin Gaethje is a for real BMF, obviously 3 knockout wins in a row. And I'm going to go on the record right now and say that I think Justin Gaethje has a damn good chance of beating Tony Ferguson. And a lot of people think Tony is just going to walk through him. I know a lot of people think Tony would just walk through tons of people in the division. And you know what? I'm high on Tony Ferguson, but I've never been as high on him as a lot of other people are. I think Justin Gaethje, listen, it's really, really it's not even early. It's 10 days from now. That's fucking crazy. Anyways, it's not that early, but straight initial reaction, I'm going to pick Justin Gaethje to win. We'll get close to the fight and we'll see if it actually happens. But Gaethje is an amazing gas tank. He's one of the few guys in the division that I feel like can kind of stand with Tony in terms of conditioning. And then, obviously, his kicking. He has an insane, I don't know the amount of, he has a couple TKO wins just from leg kicks, and then they play such a big role. And Tony still is only a year and a half removed from that giant surgery on his leg. I think Tony's really, really hittable, and Justin has amazing knockout power. We see that in his last 3 wins. I'm a giant Justin Gaethje fan. I think this fight's going to be a banger regardless, but initial reaction, I'm picking Gaethje. Probably too early to do that, but whatever. The co-main event, still happening. Rose Namajunas and Jessica Andrade This fight was obviously really, really, we were all excited for it. The one at 237 was an amazing fight. We're glad it's sticking together. But as for new fights, this is what we're particularly want to talk about. There's some ones that are sticking together and some that are new. One of those new ones is Greg Hardy versus Jorgen De Castro. And another one, Vincent Luque, Nico Price, Alexander Hernandez, Omar Morales, Marlon Vera, Ray Borg, Michael Johnson, Kama Worthy. These are all the new ones. Sajar Eubanks, Sarah Moras, Ryan Spann, Tim Alvey. And then the big one, Francis Ngannou, Jarzinho Rosenstrike. Of all those fights I just listed, which is probably the one that you're most happy got added to this card?
Got added. Oh, definitely the Jarzinho Ngannou fight. I mean, that's straight just in theory, because we've thought certain fights are going to be bangers and it hasn't happened. But in theory, that fight should be really good.
I guess, yeah, that was kind of a given. I'll take that back. Outside of Ngannou Rosenstrike, which is the one that you're most looking forward to? That one's a fucking given.
Oh, boy. Oh, man. Was the Uriah Hall fight added to that?
I don't know. But you know what? Fuck it. We'll talk about that one. Uriah Hall sticking in there. He's going to fight on the card against Jacare Souza. We've been hyping this matchup up for a long time.
Yeah. I was like, I didn't even know you mentioned it because it wasn't on that card, was it originally?
It was originally on the card, but it's staying on there now.
It's staying on there, man. I don't even see. The thing is, I liked all the fights that were already on there, or that were going to be added at some point, or were already in the making. There's not really anything that I was like too excited for they got added to because everything was already everything that was pre-existing. I already kind of liked. So, I guess, now that I think about it, the Greg Hardy one is, cool, but it's not like I'm super excited for Greg Hardy, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we massively hyped for Uriah Hall and Jacare Souza. I think, we've hyped up Uriah Hall for a long time. I've been a massive Uriah Hall fan, really ever since I started watching the sport. Obviously, his tough run, where he was just knocking out dudes left and right, the Adam Cella knockout, probably one of my favorite knockouts ever. And then, obviously, the big win for me is still the Gegard Mousasi one. That just fucking amazing combination. Still to date, I believe the only person to TKO Gegard. After that, he went on a bit of a cold streak. He lost to Gegard in a rematch, lost to Derek Brunson, lost to Robert Whittaker. But from that, he's won 3 of his last 4, knocked out Jocko, arguably should have beaten Costa if Costa didn't treat his balls like a cat toy and just fucking just beat the shit out of his nutsack and didn't get penalized for it at all. I'm totally not still angry at that at all. Anyways, he knocked out Bevan Lewis, and then he got the nice win over Antonio Carlos Jr., who at the time I believe was streaking. I believe Carlos Jr. was going into that one with a really nice winning streak, again, off the top of my head. But giant Uriah Hall fan, we'll see if he can, kind of jump into that title picture. Other fights that I'm really excited for, Marlon Vera, Ray Borg is going to be a banger, man. I'm so excited for that one. Obviously, Ray Borg is a no commodity at this point. He challenged DJ for the belt. He's been around for a long time. Not really that long, but, he's bounced between bantamweight and flyweight, and he's been legit the whole time. 2 wins in a row coming into this one. And then Marlon Vera is one of the baddest motherfuckers that we never talk about. He's currently on a 5-fight finish streak with a lot of really, really nice ones in there. And he was going to fight Sean O'Malley not that long ago. That got canceled. This fight's going to be a banger. And then obviously, Luque and Nico Price have never been in a bad fight. There's actually a rematch. I'm super hyped for that one. Yeah, there's a lot to like. Michael Johnson, Kama Worthy is a nice shout as well.
Michael Johnson.
Michael Johnson is one of my favorite UFC fighters. And honestly, it's just being honest. The dude, he's never in a bad fight. And he's the exact, I don't even know who I'd compare him to. He wins the fights he shouldn't and loses the ones that he shouldn't. He loses to Stevie Ray and then he knocks out Dustin Poirier. You know what I mean? He loses to Jonathan Brotkins and then he 30-26s Tony Ferguson.
This makes sense, but I feel like I know there's someone else. You're exactly right, but I can't think of who it is off the top of my head. Who's in that? Who's in that situation? Someone.
Yeah, he's fighting on the undercard. Tony Ferguson, who a couple of years ago, he straight up 30-26 his ass. Like, it was just, I remember, I watched that fight. That fight was an absolute masterpiece, man. He's got some nice ass wins on his record. So I hope he can get the win here, because I thought he won his last fight, and before that, I thought he beat, actually, he didn't beat him, but he was facing Josh Emmett, and Josh Emmett was getting dominated. He got knocked out in the final minute of that fight. That one sucked. In terms of future UFC events, this is some news to go along with 249 news. Future U.S. events will be taking place at Tachi Palace in California. But the more important news is that according to Dana White, a deal is currently being done for future UFC events internationally to take place at a fucking island. Apparently, according to Dana, he will not tell the fighters where this island is. He will not tell them where they're going, but it's gonna happen. I'm not joking. This is not a Onion story. This is Mortal Kombat. This is that one Japanese movie about taking all the students to the island, having them fight. This is real life.
Yeah,
it's gonna happen.
Battle Royale.
Battle Royale. Angel, is this the best story of 2020?
Like you said, we live in that alternate timeline where things just, went a little different, and in this timeline we have Mortal Kombat as a reality.
It's true. It's fucking insane. It's really, it's hard for me to believe this is happening. It's just like, it's a fake story. If somebody made this shit up, you would not believe them. But Dana White, sure enough, shout out Brett Okamoto, because Brett Okamoto gave an interview where he was talking to Dana, not practicing social distancing, by the way, he was right next to him. And Dana told him, and he had to sit there and try not to laugh as Dana told him about how they're going to go to an island out in the middle of nowhere and have these fighters fight. They're building the structure right now, and according to Dana, after April 18th, they're going to be right back on the schedule. They'll be right back on the horse. Angel, are you happy? Like, is this the right call? Because obviously we have a lot of health concerns going on, to say the least. We're in the midst of a global pandemic, and now having them go out to the middle of bumfuck nowhere and fighting. Like, is this the right call?
It's a thin line. Is it right? Probably not. But is it entertaining? Yes, it is, because it's so outlandish. As far as it's definitely not the best option. I'll say that. But, at least stuff is happening. People are working. And hopefully, they're protected and they are safe, on their way there and on their way back. Cause, they're going to this island, if someone gets really hurt during a fight, there's no hospital, they're just gonna have to deal with the medical team they have there. And if multiple fighters get hurt during a fight, like seriously injured or whatever it may be, cause people get hurt, and, they're on this island with this small team of people, the cast, the people who will be there, the fighters themselves, and, the production team, and then, whoever, and I guess on that island they won't have a sanctioning body, but whoever's gonna, whatever rules they decide to acquire on that island. And then, there's no law, so if anybody kills each other, no, I'm just kidding. But, you know what I mean.
Yeah. I know what you
mean. There's a lot there that needs to happen to be done right. And I'm sure, there's some form of legality and contract things that will happen to keep everybody safe, hopefully, and keep the fighters safe in case if anything were to happen, I hope. Obviously I don't know that for a fact, but I would hope there would be.
Yeah. And then I think one of the bigger issues with fights continuing is, obviously, they're significantly more at risk considering their immune system is compromised, considering not only they're going to be fighting, but they're going to be cutting weight. And you hear all the time about fighters getting really, really badly sick because they're immune compromised. And that's the exact people that this virus attacks. Listen, if they want to do fights, that's whatever. I can't stop them. Please have people fight closer to their natural weight. The last thing I want to see is Justin Gaethje weighs 173 right now, he said. The last thing I want is Justin Gaethje cutting a bunch of fucking weight just to go out there and be immune compromised, get knocked out, God forbid, and then he gets this virus. So it's it's a conflicting issue in terms of morality, because God, would I fucking love to watch fights. Like, honestly, and people, I see a lot of people complaining about, like, the MMA media complaining about this. Like, they're complaining about the MMA media, complaining about fights happening. We're not getting paid if fights don't happen. I mean, that's an important thing to say. I'm not getting paid shit right now. So, would I love fights to continue selfishly? Absolutely. Would I love fights to continue because I want to see entertainment? Absolutely. Is it the smart thing to do? Probably not. So, I mean, whatever. We can't control that. Dana will do what he wants. And I guess, I don't know. It's a conflicting thing. It's a morality thing for me personally, because I love this fight a lot. I'll love it whenever it happens. Might buy it on pay-per-view. I rarely buy fights on pay-per-view, but, like, I mean, come on. These guys getting a piece of the pie, if they're all getting, I know most of them are going to be getting pay-per-view points, they're all sacrificing for our entertainment. If they can get paid, fuck yeah. Yeah, I did see part of the reason why this potentially happening is the UFC holds, like, a certain amount of events on ESPN, they're going to get paid $750 million. So in case you're wondering if Dana's just doing this out of the love of his heart, love of the game, I'd be inclined to say no. Well, anyways, Angel, anything else that you want to touch on in the UFC news for this week? Or do you want to move on to our 30 for 30 Kobayashi talk?
I'm ready, but I still can't believe they're fucking fighting on an island. I want to know where this island is. I want to know how this island looks, like what kind of living situation they're going to be. Is there Wi-Fi? All the important questions,
Yeah, I'm assuming that it's going to be an island that's actually, like, I'm assuming it's not just some island that, like, Eddie Murphy owns. I saw somebody say, like, Eddie Murphy, who's, like, and part of an Endeavor who owns the UFC, owns an island. I'm really pretty sure it's going to be a place that's, like, an actual island with an actual government and shit like that. Because if not, it'd be really, really, it'd take it to a whole
okay, I'll say this. I saw somewhere that they said the Bahamas. I don't know. That's true. It was like a comment. There's someone's like island, quote unquote, like, aka the Bahamas. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I could just be an idiot and just be throwing that out there, but there you go. I mean, that's something I read.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's gonna happen. I don't think the Bahamas is a realistic one, but I'm sure there's some island somewhere. I know that a lot of places are just willing to offer up their country. I saw that Belarus is one that's willing to offer up a venue for the UFC. Like, a lot of islands and countries, like smaller ones, are completely more than willing to offer it up because they know that it's going to bring money to their, their city and their country, and for it'd get their name out there. So, Anyways, 30 for 30. I know, Angel, you finally got ESPN Plus. You finally watched some 30 for 30s. I told you to watch 30 for 30s for a long time. A lot of my personal favorites that I guess we can get into later. But one that I actually decided to watch this morning before we got on here that you told me that you watched is the Kobayashi Joey Chestnut eating competition 30 for 30. I'm not sure really what to talk about this one other than the fact that 10 out of 10, cried, it was very emotional. Didn't expect that out of an eating competition. It was fucking excellent. Like, I don't know, what are we supposed to say about this? Like, it's just,
like I told you, it was surprisingly more deep than what you would think. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
It had moments that were too real.
Yeah, it was pretty fucking, I don't know, man. I liked it a lot. I didn't think I was actually going to watch it. I mostly just watched it so I could, like, kind of talk about it with you. Then I went in, and I'm aware of Joey Chestnut. I'm aware of Kobayashi. If you guys don't know, Kobayashi, Japanese guy, little Japanese guy too. He's like, 5'6", 130 pounds. And he was this dominant champion eater in, like, competitive eating, the Nathan's Hot Dog competition, for years. He was unstoppable. Outside of him racing against a bear, which is my favorite part of the documentary.
That wasn't even like, that was, oh man, what was it? They were testing his, they were seeing if he was unbeatable, that was the thing. Like, can Kobayashi beat a bear? Because bears just fucking, I don't even know what they do. I don't even know how they eat like that. You saw it,
Well, he did lose to the bear. We should say that.
He did lose to the bear, but the thing is they were trying to figure out if he could lose, and he did lose. He did lose to the bear. Cause I don't know how these bears do it. They just, dude, it's like a machine. They just get sucked up in there. It didn't make any sense. I never knew a bear could eat like that until I saw that.
Yeah, at all. I don't know. And then anyway, so Joey Chestnut, he comes on the scene, and he's trying to beat Kobayashi. And this is kind of about the rivalry and him rising the ranks, and Joey Chestnut kind of becoming the new, not unbeatable, but him becoming the face of competitive eating. And the part that it was a lot more real than I expected is I didn't realize that people fucking hated Kobayashi because he was Japanese. In hindsight, it makes sense. It's America, fuck the Japanese. But at one point, Kobayashi's talking about like how after he lost the first time to Joey Chestnut, he was walking down the street and somebody like got in his face and yelled at him and chanted USA and a bunch of other shit. And he's like talking about how he did not feel welcome and how they used to cheer for him and now they don't. And I was like, God damn, like that's some real athlete shit that you don't ever think about. Because all the time athletes get cheered whenever they're winning, but the second they lose, and you see this a lot in MMA specifically, but like the second they lose, people don't like them anymore. I thought that was a really interesting thing that you see even in the athletic eating, the competitive eating circuit, which you don't ever think about. He ended up got treated like shit. I was like, that was really interesting to me.
He also brought up the fact, like, how he felt it was a cultural thing, how back in Japan, even the opposition gets cheered for, they don't get booed. It's not a thing back home, you don't boo the competitors because they're competing. So he felt he didn't understand that aspect of, competition in the States. To him, getting shit talked and all that wasn't like something he was used to. It was something so abnormal to him. He was used to being, everybody getting love. And then finally when he lost, he didn't get any love. Granted, he was always winning. So he never knew what it felt to lose like until, he finally did. And especially somewhere where the culture is just different.
Yeah, and I guess that's, one of the things that's really interesting. You see kind of the cultural difference, as you just mentioned. I thought it was interesting also because, you mentioned Japanese and American culture is significantly different in terms of competition. Have you guys ever watched really any sport, I'd say specifically MMA, and I've seen this in pro wrestling, like the crowds are respectful. Like they'll cheer when they're supposed to. They don't boo. They're not like Brazil. Brazil chants like that you're gonna die and we amuhe and all that shit. And it's like in Japan they're pretty damn respectful and like they're pretty nice. And I'm like, God, it's such a mindfuck because you see like he deals with American crowds being disrespectful as fuck and just being shitheads. Like it's just interesting to me. It's true. They're complete shitheads. We're shitheads. Like
you're right. You're right. He's getting disrespected for eating hot dog. But I felt bad for him because I didn't really understand. Like, and it's crazy. We didn't even mention like this big part of the story, but like his reason for not being for not competing in Nathan's anymore because he finally noticed that his contract was fucked up.
Yeah.
That was crazy. I didn't realize that, the organizer, you remember his name? You saw it this morning, so you probably remember. The guy who ran the Nathan's hot dog eating competition. Yeah. Him. I didn't realize how much of an influence he had on that whole, like, competitive eating scene until, like later on, and how much he didn't really care about, like, and I mean, obviously, it's like this and everything, when it comes to anything competition-wise. But how much he didn't really care about, Kobayashi, the guy who put him on the map, And then kind of how he felt about it. And when the reporter asked him, why didn't you ever, like, do whatever, and Kobayashi feels this way? And he's like, well, if Kobayashi feels that way, then why doesn't Kobayashi speak to me? Yeah.
I don't know. I felt
like he was kind of an asshole.
No, that's what I thought too. I thought Kobayashi came off really, really good in this. Like I thought that a lot of people involved. I don't want to say Joey Chestnut came off as a dick, so I thought he was fine. But I'd say like the promoter I didn't like, and a lot of people that like just did not come off very great.
Oh yeah. I mean, let me say this. I didn't. Joey Chestnut was like I won't time he was, but I think he like this just neutral guy and that just competes. That's just kind of his thing, man.
Yeah.
So, and also the man made 3 figures from eating, so I can't even complain.
Oh, not at all. I gotta respect the hustle.
6 figures. 6 figures, not 3 figures. Shit. three figures. I mean, it's something. This man made 6 figures.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can't hit on the hustle, bro.
Whatever you do it. Just
Yeah.
be the best at it.
But overall, I thought this one was pretty good. I liked it a lot more than I thought it would. This next one that I know you watch. I watched this years ago, and I don't remember very much about it. Lakers and Celtics, 30 for 30. Can you tell us? Can you give us your review?
And we're back. Was that me or was that you? I think it was me. We're back though. Hello?
Yeah, I don't know whose internet's fucking up, but it's one of ours.
It was mine. I'm back though.
All right. Anyways, tell us about the next 30 for 30 watches. I know I watched this one years ago. Lakers and Celtics, but I don't remember a whole lot about it.
It was literally from the dawn of time of basketball, like before there was any black men in the NBA, like Bill Russell, like getting into the NBA. That's where it starts out. Like that's it. They start out like Bill Russell's, epic, reign. That's where it all begins. Like it's very early on. I wish they would have gone more into, not more into. I wish they would have done like, early history all the way up to, modern day with Kobe, because Kobe did have the battles with the Celtics still in modern day, and they didn't do that, which broke my heart. But the thing is, it was from that point all the way to Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, and kind of like Kareem's last good year. It was kind of that, and everything in between, Will Chamberlain, Elgin Baylor, Havlicek, Walton, all of that. They go through all those guys from back in the day and kind of like everything that kind of happens in the history and the civil rights movement and all that and just the craziness of everything going on. So, I mean, that's kind of like as a whole, and obviously the rivalry between the two teams of, Boston and LA and then kind of how that came about and kind of the desire to want to beat, one another and, and everything in between and just kind of like, and kind of how like the race thing was still going on throughout all of that, like and how the race thing got brought up later on, and then how the NBA became, AKA a black league or a black sport or whatever or whatever they were calling it at the time, and then you have Larry Bird show up and he's the the great white hope or whatever, and how Larry Bird is kind of not, doesn't care about that. He's not about that. He's just kind of there to play basketball, and that's just who he is. And he doesn't represent anything. He doesn't feel like he does. And he never says that outright, but he definitely doesn't give that that demeanor that he believes that or anything like that. That was all, and kind of like media trying to like twist and turn things within the league and stuff like that, and kind of like how. People and how ratings were down because of, there was more black men in the league and stuff like that. And even when the old Celtics were successful and winning, they still weren't getting any love because they had, what people thought was too many black players.
It sounds pretty fucking interesting, but real quick, better or worse than Kobayashi's documentary?
Okay, let me tell you this. It's a 3-parter and it's very long. And then if you love basketball, it's good. It's just like the thing about Kobayashi and Joey Chestnut, that one was just, it's different. It's unique. There's just something different about it. We're talking about basketball, a sport that has so much history. And I mean, we get into race, rivalry, legends. It's two different things. And I mean, and even then there's that in, now that you think about it, there is parallels between Kobayashi and Joey Chestnut with the, the race thing and the competition thing and then the rise of, a new opponent. So I guess even then, there is some you can relate to both if you have an interest to competition at all. But, I'd probably say I did like the Joey Chestnut one more, but I love basketball, so it's kind of like that one still has a special place in my heart no matter what. And, me being someone of, a different culture, I found, both of them very relatable.
So,
at least personally.
Yeah, no, actually, good job pulling. I feel like an English teacher. Good job pulling on the parallels between the race part of both documentaries. I didn't even fucking think about that, but yeah, you're right.
I know, it clicked in my head at some point. I don't even know how, but it worked. We did it. I'm smart. I learned something in school.
Shout on you, man. You can fucking. Oh, that's actually a good parallel. I'm actually very proud of you. Somebody who's trying to become like a fucking journalism. As a major league in journalism, very proud of you.
You're welcome. Now you can go on ESPN and write about the parallels between
Kobayashi and the NBA race issue of the 1970s.
Yes, there
Perfect.
you go. You're welcome.
And our last kind of documentary to talk about is the only MMA one. It was the first MMA 30 for 30, and I feel like I started off on a good one. The story that I've known for a long time, that's been told for countless years, got the 30 for 30 treatment, that being the story of Tito Ortiz and Chuck Liddell, their infamous rivalry, and one of the first really giant rivalries in the story of mixed martial arts, obviously. I was super hyped for this one whenever it came out. I would say it got released a year after Tito and Chuck's third fight, which was just an abomination. And and it was a pretty fucking good one. I like this one a lot because I remember watching when it first came out. I was really psyched for it. They did a good job of telling the story of how Tito and Chuck were training partners, how they stopped being friends, how they stopped training, and how they became one of the first pair to actually sell 1 million pay-per-views. This is the second, one of the first big MMA rivalries, and by far the biggest for its time period. There were other rivalries in the past like Ken Shamrock and Royce Gracie, and Ken and Tito, Ken Shamrock and Tito Ortiz rivalry, which pretty much saved the UFC, which doesn't get talked enough about. Like, I hope that becomes a 30 for 31 day, because without UFC 40, the UFC's not around today. So that's a whole other story for another conversation. But I love talking about that one. After that kind of rivalry, Tito, obviously, he became a bigger star. Chuck was in the background winning fights, just knocking dudes out, becoming probably the first giant, well-rounded fighter in MMA history. He was a great takedown. He had great takedown defense, great kicks, great strikes up top, great boxing. He had a magnum chin. You couldn't knock the guy out, and so he's one of the first well-rounded guys who's going against Tito. Tito, he had okay striking, but he was all about the wrestling. His wrestling was just dominant. His ground and pound, he was the godfather of ground and pound. Well, that's actually Mark Coleman, but regardless, he was just phenomenal, and yeah, I think they did a great job showing it. What do you think about it?
I liked it. It showed a little bit of their history, a little bit of background, which I obviously appreciated a lot. And it talked about, surprisingly, it didn't talk a lot about Dana, but it talked about Dana. And kind of Dana, it's crazy. Like, Dana used to manage, them. Like, that's wild. Like, Dana used to manage them and look at their contracts and, get their deals for them and shit. And then he eventually became the guy who overlooked them, and that's kind of wild in and of itself. And kind of Tito taking command when it came to, dealing with his fights and contracts. And also, by the way young Tito sounds versus, older Tito it makes you think,
Great.
was Tito on testosterone? It makes you think.
Everybody in my time period was. Pride never die.
It's crazy though. And, cause I heard Tito speak and I'm like, what the fuck? Who's that child? It was kind of funny. I'm not gonna lie to you. No hate to Tito, cause Tito could beat the fuck out of both of us. Without even trying. But, it was great. It was great. It showed those early days, the significant difference in everything going on, and oh man, I loved it, and kind of just and how you mentioned him being one of like the first all around guys, and you know, obviously the pain they both went through, the trial and error, and you know them learning, which is just, it's great, and I loved it.
Yeah, and I think in a weird way it was also kind of showing Dana's rise. I think Dana has a really interesting story. Manager and convincing the Fertittas to help him, to buy the UFC, which at the time was going like on the verge of death. Dana has a fucking interesting story. I would watch a Dana White movie. I think that guy has a really fucking interesting story. He was a fucking boxercise teacher for years. It's true.
Okay.
It's true. He was.
I love that.
And,
I love that when they mentioned that. I was like, what the hell?
Yeah, and then he became a manager. He met with the Fertittas, ended up buying the UFC. Now he's worth like $500 million. And, he nearly got killed by Whitey Bulger in the fucking 90s. Like, the dude has a crazy ass story. So, I think showing Dana's rise is pretty cool too, because I didn't even know the fact that he was managing them. I didn't even know that shit. Like, I knew he was a manager.
I didn't know that. That was crazy.
Exactly. It was pretty fucking wild. I'd say of the 3 documentaries that we just talked about, I'd probably put, I don't know, Kobayashi probably my favorite one, because I've seen the Tito Liddell story enough times that it just wasn't that big a deal to me, and I've yet to see
that too. Lakers Celtics was good. It's long. It's a lot of history. It's a lot of and it's a 3-parter. It's long. I mean, I finished it in a day, but granted, we have a lot of time right now. But well,
you have a lot of time. You seen Tiger King?
No, I haven't. I've just kind of, what's been going on with my life right now.
Yeah.
I could throw it on in the background, but it's like I kind of do want to pay attention. I saw it. Like, I went on Netflix and I was like, should I do it? And I was like, no, I'll go to bed.
Yeah, it's pretty fucking good. I know I talked about last week about how I'm not really caring to watch it. I'm gonna put it off.
You fed into the hype though.
I did. My girlfriend was like, let's watch Tiger King. Let's watch it. I'm like, okay, fine. Finished it in a day. Finished the entire series in a day. I mean, to be fair, I have nothing else going on. I mean, sort of. I got some stuff to do. But for the most part, I don't have a whole lot going on. So I decided to watch it. Way better than I expected. I didn't have high hopes going in, but pretty fucking good. I see where there's hype around it.
No, yeah, definitely. That's good. Now, I want to ask you something. Is there any 30 for 30s? We're the guys who are going to fill them, right? Obviously, I have no film background, neither do you. But, hypothetically, we're like, hey, we want to do a 30 for 30 around this. You can do multiple. I just came up with this now on the spot because I thought it was interesting because I got one that I thought was kind of one that I like to see because I've tried to look for something with this kind of information. And I found something, but it's not good enough. So if you were to go to ESPN, whoever runs this, Shabazz, and you're like, hey, I want to do it around whatever, who would it be, or what would it be?
I want you to please go ahead and tell yours, because I need to think real quick. I need to think.
Mine's very simple, but it's just because I find it interesting. There's a lot of history there. Mine's literally just about the Gracie family. Like, I just want to learn about the Gracie family. Like, if ESPN I would just want, like, they have a lot of history. I always hear like, oh, the Gracies were legendary, the Gracies are this and that. What is the whole story? I know some of it, but I would love to know a more in-depth, things about it. I think that would be interesting. That, or I would want one around DJ, the greatest of all time, Like,
I actually have 2 of them. I have real quickly, I have 2 of them.
Okay.
So the first one is going to be Sakuraba, the Gracie killer. Because you mentioned the Gracie family. The fact that we don't have a good Sakuraba documentary is a fucking crime. It bugs me. This guy was Gracie's killer. He was, I don't know. I know a bit of his background, so I'm going to get into like that. I'm not going to spoil it for whenever they do make the 30 for 30, but
there you go.
Yeah. So Sakuraba was a pro wrestler. Sakuraba, he trained, but he was a pro wrestler. Like, first and foremost, he was wrestling in New Japan Pro Wrestling in the 90s. And, around 1995, 1996, he gets in the UFC, and he gets into Pride, and he just starts beating motherfuckers. He has some amateur wrestling background, but for the most part, he's learning as he goes. And he's fighting a lot of these guys who are much bigger than him. Sakuraba's about 5'11", 170-ish, and he's fighting and beating guys like Vitor Belfort, Carlos Newton, Vernon White. He lost to Kimo Leopoldo in his first fight, but after that, he won his next 9, including in that stretch, he beat Royler Gracie. And then after that, he faced Hoist, and obviously the 90-minute fight that, he went ahead and won, and that was just an amazing one. And then he ended up losing. By the way, that was not only that was his second fight of the night. Actually, never mind, I'm wrong about that. I fucked up. He had another fight later that night. That was the first fight of the night. He fought another 15 minutes against Igor Vorchanchin, who was significantly bigger than him. He went another 15 minutes. He ended up losing. After that, he comes back, and then he faces Henzo was the big one. Henzo was this well-rounded Gracie family, obviously jiu-jitsu. Henzo was the guy with the striking. Henzo was the guy, well, here's our young, powerful, Gracie with striking. And he beats the shit out of him. He breaks his arm. He faces Ryan Gracie. Ryan Gracie was the youngest one. He beats the shit out of Ryan Gracie. And he's just facing this family, the Godfather family. Like, these guys have so much history behind him, and he's just beating all these motherfuckers. It took until Royce Gracie on literal anabolic steroids in 2007, years after his prime, for them to finally get one over on Sakuraba. Yeah, man, he's a great story. My other one, it has to be fucking Brock Lesnar. Like, if you get Brock Lesnar, is just a ridiculous story. Born, just to a farm family. He lived on a farm. He originally was in the National Guard. He ended up getting out of that. He played football in high school, and he competed in amateur wrestling. He ends up, he only wrestled for 1 year in amateur wrestling. In the NCAA, he was dominant, went 106-5, at Minnesota. Because before that, he was in, what was it? I believe it was a community college, where he won the national title. He goes to WWE, and he becomes this massive star. He ends up leaving to go to football. He goes to the NFL, despite playing like 2 years of high school football, and that's it. And he makes it into the Vikings team. He doesn't end up playing in the regular season. He ends up playing in the preseason. They offered him a spot on the NFL Europe squad and said, "We'll bring you back later." And he goes, "Nah, fuck that. I don't want to live over there in Europe." So he goes to MMA. He starts training. It takes him 3 fights to become the UFC champion of the fucking world. It took 3 fights for him to get that shot against Couture. Beats up Randy Couture. Beats up Frank Mir. One of the most amazing comebacks of all time against Shane Carwin. And then he gets diverticulitis, loses 2 fights, goes back to WWE, and then after years away from the octagon, he comes back to face Mark Hunt, who is ranked number 6 in the world at the time, and he fucking dominates him. Brock Lesnar's story is ridiculous. I think we're totally going to get a 30 for 30 of it one day. And probably the climax of that story would be if he ever comes back to fight in the UFC again, as a potential title shot, but regardless, just an absolutely insane story.
Love it. Obviously, I know a lot of, that information, but that is a great story to tell. There's everything there.
Yeah, he has such an insane background.
It is. He's lived a good life.
To put it mildly. But it's funny because I actually just brought up Brock Lesnar.
Oh yeah.
I talked about it last week. I know that. Actually, I saw this one had the most social media shit. It was trending all weekend. WrestleMania 36. And I talked about it last year, and it's going to be a tradition as long as this podcast goes on, because I could talk about wrestling all the fucking time. It happened. Brock Lesnar, Drew McIntyre, they had a pretty forgettable match. The big one, this is kind of the way to talk about it. the thing I want to talk about. The most divisive WrestleMania match, most divisive pro wrestling match I've seen in a long fucking time. Edge and Randy Orton had a last man standing match on night 2 WrestleMania, split up into two nights. This thing went nearly 37 minutes, and it was basically them brawling all over the Performance Center. And it was pretty fucking crazy. But there's two things. People either loved it or they hated it. I've seen no in between. I saw Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer newsletter saying it's the most boring match in WrestleMania history. I saw a lot of people online saying they thought it was great. I know that personally myself, I'm split in the middle on it. But anyways, I thought it was a pretty interesting match. If you guys, free trial, you can watch WrestleMania. Overall, I thought it was a pretty good show. John Morrison, the triple threat ladder match, that was pretty fucking dope. Kevin Owens jumping off the WrestleMania sign to murder Seth Rollins was pretty fucking cool. But the thing I want to talk about was the Boneyard match. A literal B movie. That. Yeah, a literal B movie. Undertaker and AJ Styles. If you guys know anything about The Undertaker, he used to have this American badass gimmick where he was a biker. He was big evil. For one night only, he returned. He came out to Metallica, and it was filmed like a movie, and it was fucking ridiculous, and it was everything that I wanted. It was amazing. Like, listen, this is the most I've been entertained by anything in a while, given all this going on with the coronavirus shit. And just, it was awesome. It was so ridiculous. I rewatched it last night. If you guys want to watch it, just go look it up. It was fucking hilarious and fun all at the same time. It was the most stupid. It was pro wrestling at its most dumb finest. Yeah, man. I wanted to talk about that. I want to give that a quick shout out because it was great.
Okay. Also, I want to ask you something. What is it that kind of puts you on the line with the Edge Randy Orton match? Like you said you're in between, but what is that thing that puts you on the edge? 'Cause there has to be something there. What is that?
Okay, so obviously I wanted to love it because Edge came back. And this is the best feud going into Mania. They both were cutting phenomenal promos. You could tell that Edge and Randy Orton have done acting because they were just acting levels above every other program on there. And anyway, so they're brawling around the arena. They're brawling around the Performance Center. And there was a lot of spots I liked, but it was a much slower match. It was like 36 minutes. They probably could have shaved off 10 minutes if they were just faster with it. There's a lot of shit that I liked in there. It was a pretty... Randy Orton's back got all bloody because at one point Edge did an elbow drop through a table in the backstage area, and Randy's back got all torn up. You could tell they went through like hell to do this match. They beat the shit out of each other. But with that being said, it was a lot slower. I loved the ending. I don't want to. Who gives a shit? You guys are gonna watch it anyway. The ending is, obviously Edge wins. That's a given. It's been 9 years. Of course, he's gonna get the big Mania win. But he did a chair. How do you know how the fuck you say this? Concerto. There we go. I finally did it. My stuttering is done. Concerto. Basically what that is, it's like this wrestling move. It's actually not that hard to do, but it looks brutal. You put one dude's head on a chair, you take another one, and you smash it over the other guy's head. It looks like you're fucking just slamming his head in between two chairs. And that's the same thing that Orton did to take out Edge months ago. It was meant to be like poetic justice or some bullshit. And I love the ending. But overall, I'm just conflicted because it was a good match. But if you watch it on fast forward, it's a great match. Because it was just,
you were just better pacing.
Better pacing would have been phenomenal.
Okay. That's what I wanted to know. Because I'm like, you make it sound great, but it's like, what's the if? What's the it that it was lacking? Now I get it. It's just the pace of it.
They were very creative, it was, if you're one who just likes just brawling and shit, there's not a whole lot of technical shit involved, you'll probably like it. But if you're somebody who wants good, technician shit, mat-based wrestling, stuff like that, you wouldn't enjoy it.
Granted, why are you watching WWE if you want that, you know what I mean?
That's true, that style is just, far between nowadays. But the best matches of the whole weekend were just that crazy shit.
That's crazy.
Because they had to get really creative. There's a match between Bray Wyatt and John Cena where it was I don't even know how to explain it. I felt like I was tripping on acid. Because the whole Bray Wyatt character's this guy who I don't even know how to fucking explain it. He's just crazy and he controls shit. It was like making John Cena relive his greatest failures or some shit. It was like
Oh my god.
Like, fucking with his mental state.
That's a bit far-fetched for the WWE. Why did
it was meant to be like fucking with his mental state or some shit. Cause he's like this all-powerful, not even all-powerful, he's like a demon. So he was like making him relive his like biggest fuck-ups. And I'm like, this is...
his first WWE match.
That's exactly what dude, that was it. That was one of the ones. They had John Cena come out in the old getup and shit.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, it was insane. It was just so... It wasn't as fun as the Undertaker one, because the Undertaker one was just so ridiculous, it was awesome. He rode in on the bike. He literally murdered these two men. He murdered multiple people. He lit a house on fire and shit. Like, it was just...
Oh my
it was the
god.
most ridiculous thing. It was so fucking ridiculous.
They went very theatrical with this year, did they?
They had to, man. They had to.
Now, I have to say, they're still doing it in that little arena type scenario, right?
Yeah, the WWE Performance Center.
Is it still really cringe?
I'd say no, because I feel like most of the stuff that was cringe is like whenever they're first trying to figure it out, and some stuff is cringe. Because you can, like, they're still making, like, they're trying to make noise, right? Because noise is important. And commentary sometimes is, like, quiet, and it's kind of weird. Some of the segments they did without the crowd were just dumb. But then there was like the John Morrison, like there was a triple threat ladder match, right? And it's hard to fuck those up. And just they're spot fest. It's like them jumping off a ladder, doing crazy shit. That match was awesome. I loved that. You can hear them talking trash to each other. If they're actually good at playing the role, it'll be good. Edge dropped an F-bomb the other day, like. Because they're on paper, they can do what they want, you know, and they were talking more shit as a result. And those that were good at it, it came off as more realistic, came off more just them fighting. Like, it was Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins had a great match because it was meant to be like just a blood feud where these guys hated each other. And like, they were just talking shit to each other the whole time. And it was a lot better. And then obviously, if they did like a spot that was just like insane, it helped add to it because they actually allowed these guys to wrestle as opposed to just having like a quick bullshit match that nobody cared about. Now there were some that were cringe. I'm not gonna lie to you. Some of these matches sucked. That were just pointless.
Which has been the worst? That you're like, oh my, this was not a good look.
Goldberg's match is pretty fucking bad. I'm a massive Goldberg fan, and Goldberg mark, as the kids say. But it wasn't good. This is gonna sound super sexist. A lot of the women matches sucked. They really did. I thought Charlotte Flair, Ric Flair's daughter, and Rhea Ripley, I love this girl's aesthetic. She's like this fucking super tall punk emo chick or whatever the fuck. She's just straight up bad. She's only like 22. She should have won. They had her lose. That match was great. Every other one that was like a woman match, again, sounding sexist, kind of sucked. I don't know why. They just did.
Oh man. Oh Josh, you terrible. You insecure male.
Oh, apparently.
Oh boy. It's whatever.
Yeah,
it was bad, it was bad.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I've watched some of the matches back. I like the ending to night, for the record, it was done over 2 nights. I think I said that before. Night 1 was much better than night 2 in my opinion.
Okay. Well, hopefully it gets better with time.
For my sake, because I know you're not going to watch. I know most people won't, but fuck.
I've thought about going back and watching because it's kind of like, man, maybe I should watch WWE. It's been forever. Like, Edge is back. Like, I have an actual excuse to watch. I'm not just like, you know, whatever, just watching it because I have nothing to do. But I'll actually have like a reason to watch it, you know, because Edge is back and I want to see Edge again. But I don't know. I even thought about it. I was like, how do I watch WrestleMania? Like, I actually had that thought like last night. Like, what was it? The first night.
Yeah.
Like, how do I get this? I didn't even know where you went, but I was like, oh, WWE Network probably. But I was like, you know something? Fuck it. I can't submit to it.
The network has a free month, so if you're going to do that, I'd suggest that. Or you can just ask for my account. I don't give a fuck. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How much does it even cost? Does it even have a good price?
$9.99.
For a month, or for how much is a year?
A year? I don't know. I don't play by the.
Josh is like, it's not good enough for the year. It's good, but not good enough for the year.
Nah, hell no, man. I don't want that. I don't want that year commitment. I'm locked into a year commitment with Planet Fitness right now, and I literally can't even go there. That's why I don't do year commitments.
I did the year commitment for ESPN Plus. I'll put it out there.
Wait a minute, did you do the one that gets you a free UFC pay-per-view?
Oh, I don't know. I just did one to get shit. Do I have a free UFC pay-per-view?
I'm pretty sure that's how that works. If you do the year commitment, you get one. How much did you spend? $80?
Oh, no, I did not.
Isn't that the one?
Or I don't know. I spent quite a bit. It was a lot, though.
I think maybe you got a free one.
Oh, hell yeah! you know what I'm watching.
I know that there's a deal. Like if you get the year, you're pretty sure you get like a free UFC pay-per-view. I don't know that for sure because I do monthly, but.
Okay, we're gonna have to look at that later after the podcast. We need to discuss that because I need to find out if I got a free UFC pay-per-view or not. Because if I did, holy shit, am I happy? Yeah. I might have to take the day off.
Anyways, to talk about our last topic of the day. This one, I've seen some people talking shit on it. I think it looks, I think it's pretty fucking cool. The NBA is working on potentially having a horse tournament with some of their players. Do you have any interest level in this at all? Because personally, I think it'd be pretty fucking cool. They'd all be doing it at home gyms or, gyms nearby that they can do it at. I think this is pretty cool.
Honestly, I just like to see some pickup games, like 3-on-3 or something like that, or, 1-on-1 tournament. Like, I think that'd be cool. Not to say the horse idea is bad, because I know these guys can get really creative, but I think if they integrate it, into something more, like that, I think it could be good, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. Overall, they're having to get creative. And I think as far as getting creative, they're doing a good job with that. The Players Tournament, the 2K Tournament. The 2K wasn't trash. I probably would have watched it. But the Horse Tournament, I think will be pretty cool. Yeah, man. I like it. I like they're trying to be creative. As for, tournaments, we saw the Big Three's doing a tournament next month. So, yeah.
Is that officially happening? They talked about that whole, live.
They announced it, but we don't have, a day or a set date. They said May.
Okay. I was wondering about that because we talked about that when that whole thing happened, and there wasn't too much info yet. Put it like that. No hate.
Yeah, no, definitely.
So, well, I guess we'll find out here soon if that ever happens.
Yep. Is that all we got this week? I believe so.
Yep. Nope. No other news, sadly, but it was a longer. Not long. It was a good episode. We had stuff to talk about.
It was a good one. Thanks guys for listening as always. Courtside Soundoff on all the platforms, Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, anywhere you want to get us, you can get us. At Courtside Soundoff on Twitter, that's the main place that we update. Courtside Soundoff on Instagram, Facebook, and all of that shit. I'm at Josh Evanoff. He's at AngelTaker_01. So yeah, thanks guys for all the support. Peace and bud grease. Mouse click.